Today on the LA Food Podcast, you know Kato at the Row in downtown LA as one of, if not the very best restaurant in Los Angeles. But to Chef John Yao and co-owner Ryan Bailey, it's very much a work in progress. Okay, perfectionists, ever since Father Saul and I visited Kato in 2025, I've been fascinated, nay, borderline stalker obsessed with the Kato team's ridiculous work ethic and attention to detail. So imagine my delight when I got the chance to sit down with Ryan and John at their restaurant to look under the hood of what makes their partnership work and to really dig into how the team defines success and what exactly it is they're chasing. I hope you enjoy it at least half as much as I enjoyed John's rendition of Cumin Lamb. A reminder that the LA Food Podcast is part of the Acquired Taste Media Network. Be sure to tune into our sister podcast, Taqueando with Bill Esparza, and please be sure to leave both Bill's show and our show a 5-star review and a follow wherever you listen. As always, I'm your host, Lucas Servodio, and without further ado, it's time to chow down. You've obviously done interviews about your career so far. You guys did an interview together about Kato with Gabriella Ornelas, which I listened to. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really interested in sort of learning about your guys' working relationship and how it's like manifested in Kato. Because when I was like here for dinner with Saul, like that's what really stuck out to me. Kind of like how everything comes together as one cohesive unit. So we're gonna kind of start the conversation like from right before when Ryan joins to when Ryan joins and the journey thereafter. So if you've listened to the podcast before, we always start with a icebreaker question. I didn't send it to you on purpose because I wanted it to be natural. If you could have one TV show, past or present, film at Kato, what would it be? John, let's start with you.
You go first. You go first. I want to hear like how like PC your answers with how answers.
Oh, guys, by the way, this is not a PC podcast.
Well, I have this like weird dream of always or wanting to be a Bob's Burger character.
Okay.
I like do a voice of a Bob's Burger character. So I think it'd be funny if like Kato was like not filmed here, but like if Kato was in Bob's Burgers, I think that'd be really funny. Or if one of our employees was a character in it.
Not what I was expecting, but I'm so here.
Yeah, I think like, I mean, you know, it's been a up and down couple last years, and one of my few joys is just like relaxing and putting on something that's just like fun and easy to watch and like brings a smile to your face, and that's like animation from term wise is Bob's Burgers for sure.
Confession, I've never seen Bob's Burgers.
Oh, you're about to go down a whole rabbit hole. But like filming here, I think it'd be cool. I was a huge Wire fan on that show, so I think it'd be fun if like they filmed here. But obviously that's based in Baltimore, so
damn, that'd be dark.
Yeah.
How about you, John?
I was gonna say Below Deck. I mean, like,
hell yeah.
Like something like halfway between Below Deck, like / Parks and Rec, you know, that interview style. I think our staff would do quite well.
So you're leaning comedy.
I'm leaning comedy because like I feel like I see situations happen in the restaurant and I want them to do like the breakaway scene where I'm just getting interviewed and I make like a comment about it.
Yeah, that's my favorite style, like the mockumentary.
Yeah,
like The Office. You guys seen The Paper?
Yeah, I'm watching that movie. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Okay, I love those answers. I was gonna say something. I could see like Mr. Robot. You guys ever watch Mr. Robot?
Everyone.
It's like the vibe here. Couldn't you just see like, you know, Rami Malek just like
because the writing's so bad.
I was gonna say it's so like, you know, artistic and intentional is what I was gonna say.
I love that show. That was a great show.
It's a great show. All right, let's get into it. So, John, I want to start this right before Ryan joins in 2018. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is pre-Michelin, but post Real Attention. You've gotten the Jonathan Gold review already. People are watching. Expectations are forming. From the inside, how did Kato feel at that time?
I think leading up to that, like I mean, for me personally, I always saw it as like an experiment / incubation. Like I knew what we wanted to achieve, like later on in the development of like the name, but we got the start in 2018 before we moved, before we partnered with Ryan. And that was kind of like, not like a wake up call, but it's kind of like, oh, you're this thing now. So you have to live up to people's like assessment and expectations of you. and you have diners that are traveling to visit, so you have to like uphold the standard. So I think that was the thing that kind of made us like really button up and like tighten up a little bit. That was like, we're not really preparing for a thing. The thing's happening now. And I was really young then. I was 26 or 7 when we got the star. Yeah. So we're definitely like, we're just wearing random aprons and t-shirts. And we changed our uniform to like a button-up shirt and like a nicer custom apron. But I feel like it made me like grow up, or I'm like a really firm believer that like you need to set like macro level goals for yourself. So like all your small day-to-day actions are like conducive to that goal. So I think that made me double down on that and made me, just mature in like all aspects of my life. Not to say that I'm like at the point where I want to be now, but it's like jump started the process.
Before you got the star, was the goal to get a star, or did the getting of the star jumpstart you into wanting to do more?
It was always to be recognized in a way like that, but I just thought it would be like further on. I thought like we were like in a bubble where we could like experiment and find out like who we were, what we wanted to do, and what people liked about us, but it just accelerated the timeline for us quite a bit.
So it sounds like you kind of knew in the back of your head, after that point, I need something to button this place up. Did you think that looked like Ryan joining the team?
It was like a lot of things. Like Ryan was a piece of the puzzle for me. I think like getting a new space, being able to serve beer and wine, having an element of service, having a parking lot, having just, it was a lot of things. It was like, I think as we go through this conversation, I think the general theme would be like, it's not just me and Ryan that contribute to this. It's like there's a lot of moving pieces, and everyone provides like a perspective and a skill set that ultimately like leads to a very cohesive thing. And like I said, we're not at like the final destination, but like we keep adding pieces that make it more and more fully formed.
Yeah, that's a really important reminder that you're not at the final destination, because people sometimes will just see, oh, number 1 on the LA Times 101. That means that this is the final form of that thing, right? But it's cool to hear you say that. Ryan, before you arrived here, you had already like what someone look at a resume and be like, this is a fully formed career. You know, you started in hospitality young, you worked at Michelin level restaurants, you went deep at Nomad, rising all the way to head sommelier, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, a couple positions there, yeah.
Yeah. At that point, you were in LA already. Were you looking for something like Kato?
You know, I think it's really interesting because I was not like looking to form a partnership or open up my own space, or even really drastically looking at like my next couple years in hospitality. I was excited to be back in California. I'm born and raised in California, and I'd spent a lot of time in New York and overseas, so it felt good coming back here. And it did feel like at that point in time, I was looking for the next growth for myself outside of just beverage.
Yeah.
You know, I'd helped, open some incredible bars, incredible restaurants, built out massive wine programs, and trained many sommeliers, and was starting to get into operations. I was really excited about that. I was really excited about the things that keep a restaurant ticking and the things that help a restaurant grow. And I was open to the next step, but I actually had thought that like the next step was probably going to be transitioning into working in the winery side of things. And had an opportunity, or somebody come to me to essentially develop out a wine brand in a state. So that was like on the back burner at that moment when me and John started to talk. And I don't know what it was, but there was many things that excited me about working with John.
So how did you two meet?
We did would you call it like a charity or like a fundraising type dinner? It wasn't just us, but it was at the restaurant at the old space.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately to the diner, it maybe didn't seem a little chaotic, but like there's definitely some like X factors in the back that happen. And I think, I don't know, for me, it was like a trauma bonding moment.
Just like it was super chaotic, and you guys were like,
because we had a small space, and people aren't used to that. So when they come in, you're kind of just watching them operate in the space, and I was like, whoa, yeah, this is happening.
I mean, it was like a 13-course meal, and for Kato to put out that with another visiting restaurant, in that small space was a challenge. And then here I walk in and I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start with this incredible champagne, and then I'm going to pour some chocolat out of a tableside out of a pouron. And then I'm going to do a tableside cocktail, has mezcal poured over this and this. And then I'm going to do a beer pairing, and I'm going to do a sake. And then we're going to do this like fun play on a sake bomb. And then I'm going to transition to this. And I think it was ambitious and it was great, and the people probably enjoyed it, and the chefs were like, oh, that's cool, somebody's bringing this element of like really serious element of beverage to it. But I might have gone a little too far. I might have like did a little bit more than I could handle on that one. But I think, like John said, the guests had a really good time, and for me it was eye-opening to see the quality and the creativity that was coming out of that space, because like immediately afterwards I was like, I need to sit down and have a meal here with John. And that's when I literally, it was like my eyes open to what was going on at Kato. And I think a lot of people had that same feeling when they first dined at the West LA location, was like coming and going, okay, this is going to be one thing. And then walking out really, really, really pleasantly surprised about it and going, wow, that is incredibly ambitious. That was absolutely delicious. That was creative. I haven't had anything like that before. And I can't believe it's happening in this space. Could you only imagine if, this restaurant had the resources that some of these other restaurants have?
Yeah. So when did you guys first have a conversation like, wait, are we gonna work together? Wait, are we best friends, like stepbrothers?
I personally don't consume alcohol anymore, and I think even at that time I was incredibly novice to like the wine world, but I hadn't met some people with like that I've seen in like the manager role or like the som role, and I met Ryan and he was like a great combination of both. So I was like, I had conversations with him, and then I knew I needed like a counterpart. I think having people with different expertise, we even tell like our cooks, it's like really important to have like multidisciplinary experiences and perspectives in the space, because you kind of gain perspectives on things that you're not used to or just flat out don't know. So I think having Ryan as like a foil and a counterbalance was something I knew that would benefit the restaurant, and like now it's not just me and Ryan up. It was like so many other professionals in the space like that. So even then I knew we needed to bring in someone with expertise on that side.
How did the because obviously this is still back in the West LA days, right? How did the West LA experience shift after that point? After the star, after you realized things needed buttoning up, after Ryan came on, what tangible changes happened there?
No matter what, for me, it wasn't my parents' name on the lease.
Yeah.
So when I entered the space, I was just like, whether this is a boba shop or like a Taiwanese bento place, whatever it was, there's 5 years on that lease that we have to run out.
Yeah.
Like no matter what, the goal is to survive the 5 years. And ultimately we signed a 1-year extension, so it ultimately became 6, but the goal was always to like stay afloat. But we always like during that time we're like, where are we gonna land? So
yeah, where are we gonna go next?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing was like I was technically like I was working for the #1 chef in the world, Daniel Hum, with his group, and I worked with that company for such a long period of time. I'd seen the benefit of when a chef partners with somebody who has a service focused mentality or somebody on the other side, and saw what doors open up for the culinary side of things. When I think it's challenging enough to own and operate a restaurant, but to own and operate a restaurant as a chef where you're focusing on the culinary aspect of things, and you have to all of a sudden think about insurances and HR and PR and marketing, lease negotiations and workers' comp, that's almost like a weight that really puts down the burden on a chef of creativity. And I was really just trying to hopefully fill in those gaps for John so that he could really have that opportunity in that moment of like, okay, there's no ceiling. What could happen if there was no ceiling, if resources were available? And similarly, like when I was back in New York, saw how successful a restaurant can be and how much people can really enjoy themselves. So if you take every aspect of the restaurant and separate it for a moment and say, okay, what if like there was every resource put into this? The coffee program, the tea program, the beer program, the wine program, the alcohol-free program, the service, the food, everything. And if you could do everything at the highest level, or you could do everything the way you wanted it to do, like what could happen? And what could happen is like incredible dining like experiences, because you're not leaving any guest out of it. if you sit down at a restaurant like that and all of a sudden somebody at the table is really into beer and they're going, oh my God, this is incredible, all Taiwanese beer program, I've never had that. And the other person at the table is a wine enthusiast. The other person doesn't drink alcohol at all.
Yeah.
And the other person here is like 1000% a foodie. You're not leaving anybody out of having a great time in that kind of table experience.
Yeah.
So
That literally happened to us when we came here. I wanted to drink beer that night and was like, oh wow, they got all these Taiwanese beers. But then we realized like, oh, Saul wants to drink wine. And actually we should probably try the non-alcoholic pairing too. So we were just two people, but I assure you nobody felt left out. Now to the point that Ryan was saying about someone taking over that like burden of like, we're worrying about workers' comp and all these other extraneous factors, not extraneous at all, but like they're not about creativity in the kitchen. Did you feel, John, that freed up space for you to get more creative in the kitchen?
For sure, but like I also don't want it to ever seem like the restaurant's just like a creative endeavor.
Yeah.
Like I think when I partnered with Ryan, I fully was aware of like the benefits of having like an operational partner. But I think like a restaurant is also like it leans more on business than anything else. It's not like an art project. So I definitely think that part was like more important than like the expertise was more important than freeing up the creativity part.
Yeah, that makes sense. So from West LA, you guys relocate here around when was that again?
November 2022.
2021.
And how did you find this space and what drew you to it?
We looked at a lot. We looked, between John and me independently. I think like when we first partnered, like that was the big thing. Is John's like, we got to get out of the space. Like and I said it too. I was like, if we're gonna partner and do this thing, we just need physically more space, and we need the opportunity to build out a beverage program to balance out the food side of things, and to give a space that people can be excited about, really spending multiple hours in and feel comfortable. But we looked at over 100 locations easy over 3 years. And like the beginning of it was pre-COVID, which was, we were looking at like abandoned pizza shops. We were looking at like rundown spaces. We're looking at empty shells, first generation, second generation. We looked at probably 20 some neighborhoods. There was no like, we have to open up a restaurant on this block and from ground up, and we're going to sink $6 million into it. We also knew that we didn't have a lot of, we didn't partner with like a financial backer or a restaurant group or anything of that. So we had limited resources too, but we just kept on looking and looking. And we worked on one space for months, almost a year, I'd say. It didn't work out with the developer. And, that was at the end of this search, and we kind of were like up against the ropes, and we were like going, okay, we got to make a move no matter what.
Yeah.
And, we knew we wanted to make the transition a little bit further east in LA, to be closer to San Gabriel Valley, where John grew up and where his family was and where a lot of our guests were coming from. But we didn't necessarily know that we were going to end up, in downtown LA or Arts District or the Row specifically.
Yeah.
I think being in the Arts District was I think we lucked out, but that was high on my priority list, just because at the time you were moving in down the street and I still live walking distance from here. So,
Oh, you do?
yeah. So I really like this neighborhood. I think actually my partner asked me to describe like parts of the neighborhood, like why I liked it, and I couldn't really do it. So I'm not going to try now, but I always feel like growing up in LA is just a part of town I always felt comfortable.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting thing too, is like that we actually, when John and I had coffee for the first time to talk about like partnering, was 100 feet that way.
No way.
You like literally see exactly where the chair was. And it was when 13 was open in the Row, and we sat down, we had coffee, and then literally years later, after looking everywhere, we end up 50 feet away, and I felt almost a little kismet, and it wasn't planned that way at all. It's interesting where we're at right here. And I feel like a lot of LA is like this, where like multiple neighborhoods all of a sudden kind of touch and are in an intersection, because we're like, you cross the street, you're in Arts District. You cross the street, you're in the produce neighborhood of downtown LA,
right?
The produce district. Across the street, you're in fashion district, right? You're across the street this way, you're in proper downtown LA. We're sitting on a 30-acre property that at one point in time was the second largest produce market in the entire world. And like nobody really talks about that. People, they go, oh, you're at the Row, it's a mall, it's a this. It's like the Row's got a huge history of agricultural, a huge agricultural history that was not only important to LA, but was important to our entire country. And so when I started diving deeper and deeper and deeper into this, it just felt right. You have Smorgasburg here on Sunday, which is giving the platform for young creatives to build up a brand for food that hopefully leads to a brick and mortar. We had Brandon right around the corner from us at Hayato. Right. He was one of our close friends, and we were able to see what he did here.
Was he here first?
He's definitely here first. Yeah, I think that was a great selling point for us too.
Yeah. That makes it, because I was gonna say, like, at the time, well, obviously COVID was a tough time for, I feel like the Row in general.
Yeah.
But it seems to me, actually, looking back on it, a lot of the restaurants in here have actually been here for quite a while.
A lot of time, yeah.
So it's not like, it doesn't feel like a place where spots flip over a lot, which it is great. Now, is that just because it's a place where people come, or is it just a reputation has grown over time?
I mean, it's been around for longer than people really recognize, for sure. But I think there's been, most tenants are like pretty stable, but I think it was overshadowed by one large turnover, and people haven't really gotten over that. But yeah, it's like, it's great. There's parking, there's security. Yeah.
The Tartine one is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I mean, it was a big footprint, but it's been interesting to see Chris come back into the space, Chris Bianco, and open up Pane Bianco and Pizzeria Bianco. It's been interesting to see new things come too, but also, like, there's cafes that have been here for over a decade. It's like a small, quiet place in LA that, like, if you want to get away for a moment of like the chaos, like there's so much physical space here. You literally go up to the top of the parking lot and see one of the best views in LA of like the San Gabriel Mountains to your right and the downtown LA on the left, and all the way to Hollywood sign. So I think it's a unspoken gem for sure.
What did you have to actually do to the space? Because this was a like fine dining restaurant before, M. Georgina, right?
Yeah. We were really scared, to be quite honest, about getting stuck in the process of opening a restaurant and the red tape and situations like that and permitting. So we knew that we wanted to come into, if ideally, a second generation space that had stuff in place that we didn't have to spend years building it out. And that definitely was this. The previous restaurant was only operating for a couple months prior to closure here, and they had put a lot of energy and time and resources into this space, but also it didn't quite fit John and I's perspective on our like aesthetics and what we wanted the space to look like. So we changed things, but then we also kept things in place, knowing that
we made healthy compromises.
Yeah, healthy compromises, knowing that we could make bit by bit smaller changes as we got established into this space.
But and like I feel like even now and then we're still like pretty like mom and pop bootstrappy, so it's not like we had a lot of resources to like expend on just design.
Yeah. So let me ask you, from a person who's never started a restaurant before,
don't do it.
Don't do it. Yeah, I wasn't going to ask you, should I do it? But you say like you didn't want to go like the financial backers route. So how did you like raise money for this place? Was it just based on what you had profited from the old space?
No, we did bring in a small investment group of people who were friends and family, who were regulars, who were enthusiasts, who wanted to see John succeed, who had experienced Kato before and believed in what we were doing, who felt like that what we represented for LA was something to invest in.
Yeah.
So it was small little contributions coming together instead of like, hey, we're partnering with one major group who's going to do everything for us. So that was kind of that side of things. But, I had been a part of when Nomad came here to LA and saw, something fail with all the money and all the talent, all the resources, a big, beautiful building. And so I was a little cautious going into this process. And so when we opened up, we knew we had, to the day, 78 days to get doors open. So like we're opening on this specific day. It doesn't matter if we're ready or not. And also like when we get to that point, like if we don't have everything that we want at that moment, we can still add bit by bit over the next couple months.
I love all the personalized touches in here. I remember you telling us during dinner service, like there's a lot of like personal artwork in here, right?
Yeah, there's like a lot of small touches that mean different things to different people. I think that's like another theme of the restaurant. Like we all like, there's like fingerprints of everyone that's like ever come through the space, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. We always tell like the team, like, yeah, you're enjoying the fruits of past teams' labors, but you're also setting future teams up for success, you know, whether it's adding an SOP, adding a tool, you know, adding a design touch. There's like a lot of staff can point and be like, oh, that person did da da da. That's why you have to do it that way, or that's why it looks that way. But
what's an example of a design touch that like a former team member added?
I mean, there's a lot of like random small trinkets in the back that no one can see. But every time you're like, oh man, I can't believe that person left that there.
Yeah.
But by the same token, they also filmed a TV show in here. So sometimes I'll find like gaffer tape and I'll be like, what the fuck?
I don't know if it's necessarily like team members, but like, you know, James Jean art piece that is on our wall over there definitely was a close friend of John's.
Right.
Stephen Ken's art piece in the bar, very, very close friend of mine and a local arts district artist. John's grandfather's artwork is hanging on the bar wall right there and is incorporated into, you know, our collateral and our wine label.
So cool.
Our friends designed our uniforms. You know, we like, you know, even the coasters, when you get sparkling water here, like I pick up the fabric down the street and cut it, you know, just those little things like that, you know, get added to it. And yeah, it's funny because John saying like, oh, you know, people who used to work for us add bit by bit. Those people, like, it's almost like a restaurant's almost like a book. Everything like has chapters to it, and there's many characters along those, and everybody adds a little bit to the story as they go along, and they're never really gone. I mean, our CDC Alan just said the other day, he's like, oh, I saw Tony at the market the other day. Like, Tony was somebody super important to us when we opened up here and then transitioned away, and we still see these people all the time because they've now kind of grown off the Kato tree into different branches, other spaces. So
good analogy. Love the tree analogy. Let's talk food a little bit. So whenever I talk about Kato and everybody talks about Kato, I feel like it's often talked about as, I've heard you say this, SGV food, broadly speaking. Is that a box you've been put in now, or do you feel like that fairly like, you know, represents what you're making?
I think that's like the messaging we always go outward with. It's like we make Angelino food. You know, some people come in from Taiwan or elsewhere and they're like, hey, this feels a little Taiwanese, or this feels Japanese, or this feels Chinese or whatever. But I think it's just food predominantly that I grew up with. You know, my parents moved here when they were in their mid-20s, and they were so far removed from their home, and they had to cook with ingredients here. You know, at that time the Asian pantry wasn't so flushed out here, so they were trying to make do with what they have. So I think that's like the mindset we take into making food now, just to the nth degree. You know, like we source from like producers and artisans that we believe in or resonate with or have like aligned ethos on. We crave food that we all have together. We enjoy like moments that like just like food moments that make us all like tilt our head back. So we come back and we're like, how do we recreate this feeling or this sensation or this spice or whatever? So I think it's like a culmination of a lot of things, you know. And like you have major cities, right? And there's always like certain like fine dining things that you can get in any part of the world, you know. If you want like a stacked tart with flowers on it, like you go to every major city, they have a multi-star restaurant that can deliver on that. So we want people, especially global travelers, when they come to LA, to be like, I have 2 nights in LA. What do I do to like really grasp things of the city? And this is kind of like the SparkNotes version of the SGV. So it's like a huge neighborhood. I grew up on like pretty much the easternmost city of it, but like the big ones like Golden Heights, Alhambra, they have a lot of like stories of immigration. So they have traditions that are taking place here but not elsewhere, you know. Right. So it's just like a snapshot of what's going on seasonally and our interests and what's the traditions thus far in those neighborhoods. So I always tell people you can spend a night here, get a little bit of everything, get like a wide variety of cooking techniques, traditional or modern, and then If you like any of the dishes that you've had here, we can point you in the direction of like an even better one in the San Gabriel.
I love that. You're basically just the tourism board for the San Gabriel Valley.
We tried because I like, just like what Ryan said, like we have team members that branch out into different parts of the city, different parts of the world. I think collectively, like cooking isn't like a thing where it's like this person's better than me and it's always going to be that way. It's more of a like today you, tomorrow me type thing where like we're all just on different parts of our career, like different parts of our timeline. So I think those of us like that were lucky enough to have longer tenure or enjoy success before the others, like everyone has like a responsibility to the city to like uplift the rest of the city. You know, it only makes everyone better, like the general labor pool, like talented managers, how we go outbound. It's all towards bringing people to the city, enjoying the fruits of all of our labor, you know. And I think it's super important to think about it that way. So whatever we can to like promote this story of LA and take people, like force people to travel around LA, is like our ultimate goal.
Has that been a bit of a shift over the course of your career, John? Because I've listened to past interviews that you've done, and I remember hearing that, you know, you obviously had worked at major restaurants in San Francisco, and you were trying to work at Saison at one point, and you were kind of building a career up there in the Bay Area. And it sounded like you didn't have like intentions necessarily of coming back down to LA, and what forced you down was kind of like economic reasons, we could say.
Yeah, I didn't have money to really do anything.
Right.
And when I came back, my parents had started this business venture, so it was a bit of a like, in the moment I was like, this could either like trap me or save me, but all I know is like I needed money. So like even like when I came back, I was like taking hot jobs, so it was really like whatever it took to like survive, I guess, as long as I was cooking. So I just remember like throughout the years of even opening the restaurant, we would visit other cities.
Yeah.
And I would always feel like there was like a sense of camaraderie that didn't necessarily exist in LA, because we're still like a rather young like food city, I guess you could call it. But I wanted LA to like also have like a community network that you would find in other large cities. So I think no matter coming or going, that was something that we wanted to establish here.
Well, when did like that really crystallize for you? When you're like, you know, I feel like we're doing something that's bigger than our singular restaurant here. It's about like the city.
I think like circling back to like what I said before, like it's always about like if you're in a more fortunate position, it's just better to like redistribute that and like help others. So I just remember when we first started out in the city, like I didn't have a lot of experience as an operator, as someone in the industry. I just didn't, you know, but I was stuck in this position. I was trying to make the most of it. And I feel like we didn't really have the grace from longer tenured people in the city, just to put it very frankly. And it didn't necessarily make me mad. It just made me kind of sad and disappointed, because that's personally not how I was raised. Yeah. So I just told myself that if I were ever in that position where we had the ability to help others, especially those coming up in the industry, that we would in like earnest, you know, not just like vocally, but like doing something where you knew it wouldn't come back to you, or like you wouldn't have to like tell other people that you did it for them, that we would always try and show up for other people like that. So I think for me personally, that's something that I always wanted to do. And now that we do have the means to, it's something that we like actively go for.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I kind of felt the same way, as that in my career, I was always searching for a mentor and hoping I would get one, because I saw the benefit of having a mentor, and I saw people who were underneath people like rise, and lose years and years and years of like trying to establish a bond with somebody who would do that. And then, you know, I think it was in like year 2 of being in this space here, realizing like, okay, that didn't happen. I didn't get the opportunity. And I can either resonate on that or I can try to become a mentor myself, because I was learning so much of how to open a restaurant, how to run a restaurant, how to deal with the city, how to, build out beverage programs. And, I've been really lucky to have, I don't know, probably about 100 sommeliers work underneath me now. And I take great pride in the fact that, I feel like if they've spent some good time with me, that they now are doing pretty well. And like John said, it's like, now it's our time to like go, okay, our doors are open and we've gotten some great press and the business is doing well. Okay, there's a lot of other people that aren't in that same position. I'm an open book. I'm a text away, a phone call away. Rarely do I say no to anybody. Let's try to do that for other people coming up in the industry. But also, like to what John says, like I feel like when the moment kind of was like when we got World's 50 Best One to Watch, we had no clue that we were going to get that accolade or be anywhere near that accolade. And what we immediately saw was that a huge uptick in international tourism to specifically Kato.
Yeah.
And if somebody's flying from Barcelona or London or coming from Berlin to be here to just do a World's 50 Best thing, they're not here for one day. They're here for a weekend. And immediately, grabbed a piece of paper and said, "This is the taco you're getting. This is."
Awesome. We really I literally plotted out people's itineraries as they ate here. I was like, what do you want to eat? How far are you willing to drive? Where are you staying? I'll write out 10 restaurants for you to share right now. And yeah, we basically plotted people's trips, because once they're here, they're like, I have 5 days to burn. I'm like an open book. I left half of my itinerary open. Like, where should we go? And I'm like,
That's sick.
Yeah.
I'm coming to you next time I want a food itinerary.
amazing. I'll do
Hook me up. Hook it up. You touched on beverage. Let's talk a little bit about beverage. So you've obviously built a very impressive beverage program here. How did you go about it? Was it brick by brick, one piece at a time, or did you have an overarching vision for it from the start?
I definitely, when I started to taste and get familiar with John's cuisine, I quickly realized that I thought it would be really amazing to build a world-class wine program around it. You're in Paris or you're in London, you're in these major cities in Europe, and you're going to a Michelin star restaurant. They're usually often accompanied by pretty serious wine programs, so that people can drink something just as great to go along with the food. And I realized that the Taiwanese style of food John was making was relatively low in acid. There's no acidification from a lot of citrus. So I said, oh, okay, this works perfectly with wine. But I knew wine couldn't just be it. We found this space. It had a bar. It wasn't initially our original plan to build out a bar program. So I was stressing out a little bit about trying to take on that as well. And I think one of the big moments for us is, Austin Henley, our bar director, came to us excited about potentially doing this program. And we talked for 4 or 5 hours that day. It wasn't an interview. It was really just getting to know each other. And one of the first things I brought up to Austin was I would really like to see an extensive alcohol-free program here. And he was 100% on board with that. And he started shooting out ideas of how he could do that and how we could develop that. And so I felt like, okay, wine side of things, I think I can get things moving in the right direction. Great. This huge piece of Austin coming on board helps us develop not only an incredible world-class bar program, but also this alcohol-free program that wasn't really being highlighted in other restaurants at the time.
Yeah.
A little bit of that, but not to the extent that we have 100 options and pairings that are created every day from market produce and developing out our own products and things like that. Then you had the alcohol-free cocktail and wine set aside. You talked about the beer program and working with Taiwanese beers. The beer importers that helped us build out that program were literally my neighbors in my building. And they had their own jobs and were just excited about starting a craft beer importer company for Taiwanese beer. So we worked with them. All right, now we got the beer program out of the way, or developed, and just bit by bit growing it. I've always looked at these iconic wine programs in certain cities and seen how they kind of evolve over time. It usually takes decades to build out one of them, but we really put our foot down on the pedal on that one. And, we're able to build out, the city's largest list here in just 3.5 years. And
yeah, wow.
That was intentional and focused because we wanted to, build a cornerstone for the beverage program within our restaurant as well. So
you said this, one of the largest programs. Does size matter, to use unfortunate turn of phrase?
I think what I've learned is that the more options you can give guests, sometimes it can feel daunting and like a task to choose from, but that's one part of it. But more importantly, you're leaving less people out of the conversation. And if somebody's coming to do Kato, it's a celebratory moment for them most often. This is a meal that they're going to have once in their lifetime or once every few years if they're lucky. And so to pair that with a beverage that is at that same level is my responsibility as a wine director to do. So I mean, like, there's not too many places. There was less in LA, but in just like the world where you can get a bottle that's over 100 years old, or a bottle from your father's, you're celebrating your father's 70th birthday, and you're like, wow, that's a birth year wine right there. But at the same point in time, having more and more options on the other side of things, so you're not excluding people from the experience as well. Our NA or spirit-free program includes people who don't drink alcohol into the beverage experience. We have bottles of wine that are, $30-something, so if somebody's a cook, and they've saved up their money to, taste this food and to learn from this meal, that they can have a bottle of wine here too, That's awesome. Having options with single digits to them, that, those things have always been really important to us as well.
That's cool. I like the idea of not leaving anybody out. Let's talk accolades a little bit, because you've received quite a few, and you've mentioned the world's 50 best one to watch. We've talked about Michelin. We've talked about LA Times. The thing I hear again and again when Kato comes up in conversation is that you guys should have more than 1 star. Do you feel the same?
I think regardless of the accolade, I think for me personally, I always want to feel like I'm being like fulfilled by my work, and I feel like we're doing everything we can and everything that we imagine, because I feel like in restaurants, right, like you have to make concessions and compromises. It's inevitable. Like, there's a budget, like we're not, like I said, we're like still modern pop. There's like certain things we have to do to get by, and there's realities we're faced with. Like sometimes it's a business service, sometimes it's like we're not able to use an ingredient, that's just the way it is. But I think I always want to feel like personally I'm executing something that I visualize with like integrity and in line with like our ethos, and that ultimately makes me feel good. So it's not so much the accolade, it's more me feeling that we can do all that we could, and my staff feeling fulfilled in the same way. So we always tell our staff, like, regardless of the accolade, whether it's under one department name or one person's name, it's something that is like an aggregate of everyone's effort that results in like that cohesive product at the end of the day. That we can all feel good about. So I just want that for everyone, which is not always so easy and not always so like cut and dry, but feeling good about what you do is like very, very employing thing.
Yeah, it's a great way to live, as opposed to like meeting that external validation, like having that come from yourself. It's huge, and I do think it actually is a great propelling force to keep getting better. And that's something that I've noticed about your restaurant is like you never seem to be resting on your laurels. There's always something new happening, something new developing. For example, I remember when I ran into you at LA ChefCon, Ryan, you were talking about going to some like random gathering of legislators or something so you can stay ahead of the curve in terms of like anticipating what's coming next from a business standpoint. So with that spirit of what's coming next, what can people expect from Kato in 2026?
I think you said it earlier too. It's like these accolades are a representation of what we've done in the past, and to be honest, it's like great affirmation for all the hard work that our team has put in. And with him comes a little bit of a responsibility. Like what we've said is like, if people are coming to us, we will also want to send them to other incredible places. The more and more other places in LA get accolades too, the more and more maybe the city gets recognized as it should, because I truly believe it's the most exciting food city in the world. That you get this opportunity to build within, and but we're nowhere near being done. It's been great to get these accolades, but for us, in terms of what you just said, is like that internal validation of like we're doing what we're doing, and it feels great for other people to say like, oh, what you're doing feels right, feels good, brings me joy. But I want to be
I want to be feeling that joy too.
Yeah. And with that, it's like when you're in a space every day, you have the opportunity to fine tune everything and get it better a little bit by a little bit by a little bit. But you also see the what if moments, what if we could do this? What if we change this up pretty drastically and try this? So, people talk about this space here as like Kato 2.0. Like at the end of this all, I think there might be like Kato 7.0.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's like just hearing to you guys talk, it sounds more like Kato 15.0,
Yeah.
to be honest. Guys, this has been super fun for me to hear from you guys about how you approach this work. I heard you guys talk about how every year you have a different mission statement. Have you guys nailed the mission statement for 2026?
I feel like increasingly in food, like I think like the opposite ends of the spectrum are growing wider, right? Like the low end is getting big, but there's also so many more high-end experiences that you can have, and like sure, perspective and identity separates each place from the other, but I think for me, something that we really try to focus in on that seems like somewhat intangible, but I think for like a guest that's like fully immersed in the space and willing to give themselves to the experience, I think integrity is a huge thing, like when we do things in the space, it's with like care and intention, like, it's not so like carelessly done. And I think it's not so much about individual things, but at the end of it all, it really comes across as like, wow, the staff really cares about what I'm eating, how I'm feeling, how I leave feeling.
Yeah.
Will I remember this meal? I think all those things, whether it's like simple things like hygiene, like basic things like hygiene and like how delicate you are with something. I just want people to feel the same level of care that we're actually putting in. And I think whether it's communicating that or like we have an open kitchen, so people are very easily able to visualize that, and having being able to convey that sentiment to our staff so they also apply that same level of like mindfulness and being present with their daily actions, I think is number one for me. I care so much. So like it's not just so much like I want someone to eat something and be like, whoa, like that was delicious or that was very memorable. Like I want people leaving feeling good, especially in this day and age of like, for sure, like the fitness or like whatever, like fitness and well-being. I just want people to leave also feeling good about what they eat. Like this was sourced well, this was treated well, this was handled with the utmost like care and hygiene. And that's something you don't see day to day, with people that are really concerned about like big flavors or like the spectacle of food. But we just think about food in like a very like holistic, healthful way. So
I love that. As someone who eats out a lot, I appreciate that, because I go to a lot of like meals where things are sourced well and things like that, but like I feel like there's not always a focus put on the guest necessarily. Sometimes there's a focus on like how much is the kitchen flexing here, and it creates kind of a one-sided dialogue sometimes, and you leave feeling like shit sometimes. Like
you go out and like buy, say like a nice carrot, but you're putting like commodity like butter and like an ounce of like frying oil, and it's like, you spent time on that carrot and like you want it to like people source that for it to taste good. Like, are you gonna leave feeling good? Are you like, it costs us more to like do the right thing essentially, but like, are you gonna go home feeling so random? That's James is right there. James is the one who did that RVs.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he lives on the west side, so he's not here for you. I just want people to like leave feeling good, knowing that like if we like made a chicken broth, like that chicken broth, you'll never know that you had it. Like it's like the backbone to a stock, but like we spent money sourcing like an organic, free range, well-raised, air-dried chicken for you to consume that like to our knowledge is like the best that we can buy. And that's something that never makes it to the menu, but you're like a captain won't tell you that. But I want people to like trust in us that like we're doing like those things. And I think that's like a level of like relationship that we have with our like regulars, but it's something that's not talked about generally.
You kind of said it yourself. You're like, sometimes the restaurant experience isn't for me too. Like like the service side of things. I mean, we make I hate saying the word like investments, but like we bring people onto our team that specifically have been identified as really good at doing that. Like Nikki, our general manager partner, and she works the front door every single night, because I truly believe when you walk through the front door, seeing her and her energy sparks that feeling right off the bat.
Yeah.
Like, she makes you feel welcome in this space immediately, and you go, okay, wait, hold on, this is going to be something different. I know I'm getting great food, I know there's like a big wine list and all that, but I know I'm in a space that's going to make me feel warm and welcome and comfortable for the hours that I'm here, based upon how the people are treating me here too. It's funny you asked about like our mission statement. It's like, I think like a week or two ago, I sat down the management team and like gave them a piece of paper with some questions about it. And the first thing was like, describe Kato 2026 to a guest. And every single one of our 10-person management team had something different to say. And so literally what I did is I just took those and I took a highlighter and highlighted words that were consistent across all of them. And John, spoke to it a little bit before, but it really is like, where we're at right now is about trying to represent the city of Los Angeles as best as we can. I feel like people who dine out are trying to get an understanding of this city, and I think we try our best to represent it in a way, whether it's the sourcing of the produce from the local farmers market, or whether it's highlighting certain winemakers who have a background and history in the city, or incorporating those ingredients into our bar program, whatever it might be. But like, when people leave this space going, okay, like I get what's happening in dining in LA this year, like, I get what's happening here right now. And I don't necessarily think we felt that feeling in the past years. I feel like, okay, year one was like, okay, we have a lot to prove. Like, people are looking at us. We now have those resources to do what we want. Okay, let's just try to be the most successful version that we can be of what we're doing right now. And then I think on year two in this space, John took a look at like the authenticity of, or the representation of the cuisine he was putting forth and the ingredients that were in our space, and evaluating, saying, okay, how can I really feel tied in and build an ethos around those? And then year three, I think it was a lot about sourcing and really making sure that everything that we were trying to do in terms of product we were bringing in and the stories we were telling about everything, we could communicate those. We could say that this is the farmer that came from, this is how we make this is how this is brought to do. And that was very quick and easy. I mean, we shared so much information with our staff, almost too much information with our staff about sourcing. And I think now that we're like coming upon 10 years total for Kato, like, which is a huge achievement and like pretty amazing. And we've received like these recognitions about being what we are in LA. And now it's going, okay, like, how do we try to carve a little niche in the history of LA for Kato, and how can Kato become a little bit of that story, and vice versa, how can we tell the story of LA in the story of Kato as well?
Hey, well, from an outsider's perspective, I think you guys are well on your way. So if not already there, honestly, from my perspective, but I know you don't like to hear that, because I know for you guys, you'll never arrive. You just seem like those kind of people. Thank you so much for making the time for us. The last question we ask all our guests, because you're two, we're going to keep it to two. But what are 2 LA restaurants you're loving right now?
For me, the last like 2 years, I've been doing the Obosh, Komal, Bang Bang a lot.
Oh yeah.
But lately I've been trying other places in the Mercado.
Oh,
a
nice.
lot. I've been going like a lot, but yeah, like random, like we've been going to the Thai place in the corner. Chichen Itza is always fantastic. So, yeah, I love that place. I love that there's no like crazy spectacle. You're just eating something from someone that's like, that's like their livelihood. They're not trying to be creative. They're just trying to make a living.
It's always been that way. It's fantastic. All right, what you got, Ryan?
I really, closer in my neighborhood, probably one of the best bakers in town, Andy, has a diner called Bub and Grandma's.
Oh yeah.
It's, I think what he's been able to do in that space and translate it for the neighborhood has been really great. So I love Bub and Grandma's. I love almost everything that he bakes, but then also how he's translating that into a diner feel. Dunsmore's right next door. We took our whole management team to Dunsmore, and Brian. Nice. I mean, this absolutely just the words delicious food that he is doing.
Yeah, Dunsmore and Hobosh have to be like the best restaurants in the city.
Yeah, so. I love the feeling of sitting down at a counter and having Charles cook food and Courtney serve me sake at, Tsubaki Toto and Camellia, like, I think, like, in terms of beverage professionals, that's probably her on the sake side of things, and like maybe Max Reese over at Mirate and Daisy are two people who are a great representation of incredible beverage people who are telling amazing stories about with good authentic producers behind them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I'll be talking to Max soon on this podcast. Great answers. I would expect nothing less from you guys. John, Ryan, congrats on all your success. Can't wait to come back to Kato, and excited to see what 2026 holds for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the LA Food Podcast. Thanks to our guests for making the time for us. As always, we'll be back with another epic episode next week, but if you're looking for me in the meantime, you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Thread, YouTube, even our website at the LA Countdown. You can also find us on Instagram at It's Acquired Taste and at acquiredtastemedia.com. If you like what you heard here today, dear listener, please consider going to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating or review, even a follow. That really helps us. It means the world to us. Thank you so much in advance.